Welcome to the High on Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Zeal, yoga lover, crystal charger, high-functioning stoner, and CEO of MaryZeal.com, a community for women of color who love cannabis and are looking to uplift and support each other on our self-care journeys. On this podcast, we'll explore meditation, yoga, sex, astrology, and of course, all things weed. We'll explore how to truly value ourselves, use stillness for self-discovery, and cannabis to go higher on our journey. Think of me as your sister stoner who lovingly encourages you to prioritize yourself and reap the benefits of this magical plant. If you're ready to create a life that holds space for your most valuable asset, that's you, by the way, take a deep breath, light your J, and let's dive in. Welcome to the High on Self-Care podcast. I'm Stacey Zeal, and today we're going to talk about morning routines. We're going to talk about how to create an amazing morning routine that includes self-care so that you start your day off on a positive note. I've tried to become a morning person so many times. I wish I could tell you how many because I've tried so many times and I've failed so many times. Until I started adding weed to the picture and adding some structure to the picture, I really started to finally maximize my mornings. I was doing some research and I found that about 40% of your daily habits are on autopilot. So they're things that you don't even think about. I think having a morning routine that flows, that feels like it's on autopilot, really would help you to maximize your mornings and help you to start your day on a positive note. I think that when you add your self-care in the morning, at least, I think you can definitely do your self-care throughout the day, which is important. But today we're going to talk about how you add your self-care to the morning. That way you start your day off on a good note. You start it with gratitude or whatever other kind of things that you want to start it with, things that mean something to you so that you can stick to it. So I wanted to give you some insight into how to create that morning routine, and in the spirit of it being January and we're starting new routines. We're trying to, stay on track with these New Year's resolutions that we set, or still trying to work through them and see what we're going to do for the year. Still seeing where we're at as far as this pandemic. So I think having a morning routine helps you to feel like you have some sense of control. It helps you to feel like you have some sense of structure. That way you can start your day on a good note. So with that, the first thing you want to do is track your day. For about 2 normal mornings, write down everything you do in the morning, big and small. Anything from getting out of bed to brushing your teeth, or laying in bed for 20, 30 minutes after your alarm goes off because you're scrolling Instagram. That's usually me. So anything from doing that all the way to having to make breakfast, to having to get dressed, or to journaling or yoga or whatever it is you do in the morning. Write down everything you have to do, because this gives you a realistic look at how many things you have to do in the morning. When I first started doing this, I was just I kind of skipped to the second step of visualizing and prioritizing in a ideal morning. And I didn't realize how many things I actually did in the morning that slowed me down. So for example, I was cooking breakfast in the morning, and when I realized I wanted to kind of shrink that part of my morning so that I can increase the amount of time I have time to do yoga and other things, I realized that I can make that thing smaller. Like I can just have yogurt. I can have any kind of breakfast that's grab and go. So taking the time to figure out exactly what your day looks like is an important first step. Even if your day is like chaos, like your morning is chaos, it's important to know what you're currently doing. So you can have a train to track the chaos. Like, where's the chaos coming from? Is the chaos because I'm staying in bed too long? Is the chaos because I'm trying to cram too much into a short amount of time? Track it, write it down, figure out what it is that you're doing in the morning so you have what carries you into the next step. And so the next step is to visualize and prioritize your day and yourself included in that. What does your ideal morning look like? You need to know what you want before you create things. And the same thing, as we were talking about in the previous episode about New Year's resolutions. It's really important to know, what do you want this to look like? What does my ideal morning look like to me? What does it feel like for me? because habits are tied to emotion. So it's important to tie any new routines we're trying to do to some type of emotion or some type of feeling, some type of why. Understanding what your ideal morning looks like allows you to see how far apart your current morning and your ideal morning are. And the next step, what we're going to do is try to bring them together. So it's important to do that. In order to do that, what you want to do is pick 2 or 3 things that fill your self-care cup that mean something to you. And the emphasis is on something that means something to you. I could tell you to do yoga in the morning, but if you don't like yoga, you're not going to do it. And that stops your morning routine because you get to a point where you're doing something that you have to force yourself to do. And that's where, when I talked about earlier, finding that flow, you want your morning to flow. You want your morning to be something that you like or that you look forward to, because that also motivates you to get out of bed. It motivates you to get going on your routine, or it motivates you to stick to it. So I think that, when you're picking these 2 to 3 things, again, keeping it small, because you try to do 17 things in the morning, you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to do anything. So start small, because you can always add to it later. There are 3 categories of things that you could kind of pick from that would help you to fill your self-care cup in the morning, or help you to make sure that you're giving into yourself in the morning before you're starting your day and prioritizing anything or anybody else. And those 3 categories are mental activities, physical activities, and spiritual activities. Some ideas for if you're looking for any mental activities to incorporate to your morning routine. It would be reading a book, doing an easy puzzle to get your brain working and your juices flowing, writing your journal, meditate, something that kind of gets your mind working and, transitions from being asleep to doing something that you enjoy, that stimulates you mentally before you go on into your day. The next thing will be physical ideas. So these are things like yoga, exercise, dancing, breathing exercises, anything that gets your body physically moving. It's important to have some kind of physical activity in the morning so that you get your body moving. Your body was, laying down for a long time. Want to get your body moving, get your blood pumping. And then there are some spiritual ideas. So things like meditation, gratitude and affirmations, prayer, or reading your spiritual book. I think that gratitude and affirmations are such a great way to start your day. It has you starting it off on a positive note. They're really simple and easy to do, so they gives you a quick win in the morning. So you really feel like you did start your day with something positive and you already got a win for the day, so that keeps you going. So after you've tracked your day, you've visualized and prioritized, you've picked 2 to 3 things that would benefit you, that would mean something to you to do in the morning, you want to write it down. Pull out your 2 days that you tracked. Think about your ideal morning, or if you wrote it down, pull out your ideal morning and create your first draft of your morning routine. Make sure it's realistic, but something that excites you. So that's why you picked those 2 to 3 activities from the last step that mean something to you, something that you can look forward to. Because we all have things we have to do in the morning, like brushing our teeth or flossing, all that kind of stuff, making breakfast. We all have to do those things, but you don't really look forward to them. At least I don't. I don't look forward to flossing or, even making breakfast and stuff like that. And if you do, that's great. Those can be your activities. But for me and for some, for other people out there, you want to make sure you're picking some kind of activities, again, that mean something to you. Write it down, make your first draft, make sure it's realistic, but something exciting, and put it somewhere you can see it. I am famous for using an iPhone wallpaper for to write down my schedule, to write down anything that I want to remember, to have any kind of quotes that I'm trying to make stick. Currently on my phone, I have a quote from Ra Goddess, a book that she has called The Calling. And it says, "I am a conscious creator. I have the ability to create the life I most desire." So you can do that with your morning routine. I have my morning routine written down on just a piece of paper. And now that I have it as a flow, I don't need to look at the paper anymore. It's something that comes to me naturally. I know what I'm doing when, and they're still exciting because they're activities that I love to do. Another thing you can do is use a habit tracker. You write out your habits, for example, on a journal or a habit tracker or a printable. Write it down on that and you check off when you do it. I have a habit tracker in my journal and I write my activities. Usually at this point, my morning routine is kind of second nature to me. So I don't need to write down my morning routine. But when I am trying to make something stick, for example, getting out of bed by a certain time, I write it in my habit tracker. And in the morning, I look forward to checking it off that I did it. Or sometimes at night when I was trying to make sure I flossed every night, I was just like, let me make sure I floss because I know I'm going to be mad at myself if I get up tomorrow and see there's a bunch of blank X's because I've missed it so many days in a row. Something that easy that helps you to remember to do the activity. Another thing you can use as a habit tracker are apps. There are apps called On Tracker and Jointly. I'll link them in the show notes. If you want to see the show notes, head over to marysdale.com/03. This is episode 3. And so you can use On Tracker or Jointly. They allow you to track your habits, along with your cannabis use, so they're pretty great. And the last step is to practice and be patient and be flexible. Now that you have tracked your days, you've visualized and picked some activities that mean something to you, you've written down your first draft, you want to practice and remember to be flexible. How much time do you need to get through your routine in the morning? That's the first thing you want to ask yourself while you're practicing. For example, in my morning routine, which I will share in a second, I allot an hour and a half to my morning routine. And it may sound long to some people, but the reason I allot an hour and a half to my morning routine is because when I tracked my morning routine, I found out I could do this probably in an hour. I could do my routine in an hour. And the reason I kind of let it stretch to an hour and a half is because I have spent so many years being rushed in the morning because I couldn't sleep at night. I stayed in bed as long as I could because I was exhausted. And then I had to rush out the door in the morning, grab my yogurt, run out the door. And I don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired of that. I was so tired of that. Now, my morning routine includes a lot of weed and a lot of time, and I love it. So how much time do you need? And that is going to dictate what time you have to get up in the morning. I don't talk about getting out of bed hours early or whatever, the different advice is. I think that until you understand how much time you need in the morning, that is going to dictate what time you get up. I tell myself I need to be working by 10 a.m. So I know that I need to get out of bed by 8:30. I want to be done my routine and starting to work on marysdale.com by 10 a.m. So that means I need to be out of bed by 8:30 in the morning. Knowing myself, my alarm goes off around 7:45 because I need to bake in that time of staying in bed and reading a book, scrolling my phone, whatever. I still haven't become someone who just like jumps out of bed. Maybe one day I'll get there, but I still do kind of linger in bed a little bit. How much time do you need in the morning? That determines what time you get up. You can start to try to wake up in increments. For me, I tried waking up 15 minutes early. I just ended up staying in bed 15 minutes longer. I tried 30 minutes earlier. Setting my alarm is what I'm referencing. Setting my alarm 30 minutes earlier. That was okay. But I ended up, again, just laying in bed for 15 minutes and then only getting out of bed 15 minutes early. So now when I'm trying to make a jump, I'll set my alarm about an hour early. I started, when I wanted to start getting up at 8:30 in the morning, I set my alarm for 7:30. And then now I'm at like 7:45 because, I can get myself out of bed faster. And now that you know how much time you need, what time you're going to get out of bed, what time to set your alarm and everything, you're going to keep practicing. It takes a time to get into a flow state. So you're going to keep practicing this. And when you're practicing, you want to ask yourself a couple questions. Is there anything that you can move around so it flows better? So for example, in my morning routine, I include meditation as my very last activity. And the reason I do that is because after I meditate, I feel excited and ready to start the day. That is my very last step. I found that when I was doing it before I journaled or before I did yoga, it almost really did feel like the end of my morning routine. So sometimes I would forget to go and do it. So I leave that for the end. Is there anything, while you're practicing, is there anything that you can prep the night before, like breakfast or picking out your clothes to make your morning run faster or run smoother, not necessarily faster. You want your morning to run smoother, to flow. So for me, that is having yogurt in the refrigerator for when I don't feel like cooking, or if I want to just have something to eat early, and then my partner and I do not get out of bed at the same time. So if I want to have breakfast with him, I'll eat yogurt in the morning and then we'll have breakfast later. So this practice that you're in, this practice that you're doing while you're trying to get your routine to stick, This is where you can be flexible. This is where you make sure that this routine is working for you. Because again, at the end of the day, this is for you. This is to make your morning run faster. So you want to make sure that this morning routine works for you. One of the other tips I have for this last phase, and then we'll move on, is have a shortened version for the days that you don't have as much time. There are definitely going to be days when you don't have the time to get through your entire morning routine. There are days when I can't get through my full hour and a half because maybe I have an early doctor's appointment or I have something I have to do. What I put together is a shortened version of my morning routine that allows me to still kind of get those 3 activities in that I want to do, but I don't skip my morning routine saying, oh, I only have 30 minutes today, so I can't do anything. Now that we've talked about how to set a morning routine, I'm going to give you an example of my current morning routine so that you can just have an example to get the juices flowing. I get out of bed and get dressed. I have breakfast and water, and then I smoke. I have my wake and bake. And the reason I have my wake and bake after I get out of bed, after I hydrate, is because 1, it's super important to hydrate before you smoke weed, just like alcohol dehydrates you. Smoking can dehydrate you, or cannabis can dehydrate you. So make sure you're drinking enough water. But also, if I smoke in bed, I'm not going to get out of bed. And it's just as simple as that. So my reward for getting out of bed is to be able to smoke. After I smoke, I journal, I do my high yoga, and then I will usually sip in and smoke again, hit my bong again, and then I'll go into my meditation because I love kind of climbing my high while I'm meditating. It makes me feel real high and shit. So it's a lot of fun. So those are the things that I do in the morning. My short version of my routine is to have a quick smoke, journal. I could move this to the evening if I'm like super short on time. I might move it to the evening. I'll do 5 sun salutations in yoga they kind of help you to start the day. It's a short version of yoga. And then I do a 5-minute meditation instead of my normal 10-minute meditation. So to recap, you want to, in order to set a productive morning routine that includes cannabis and it includes all the awesomeness that you can stick to because you love it, you want to make sure that you first track your mornings so you can know what your morning realistically looks like. Visualize what your ideal morning looks like so you know what you want to do. That's where you pick those 2 to 3 activities that you want to do in the morning that really light you up. Write it down so you can follow it and you can have it and it makes it real. And then practice it. So you want to, again, this is your morning routine. This is your life. So if something doesn't flow right or if it doesn't fit right, change it. Move it around. Again, we want to make sure you're getting better sleep at night because that is also a key in getting up in the morning. One of the reasons I couldn't get myself to become a morning person was because I was not getting enough sleep at night. So it's really important to get better sleep. I talk about getting sleep with cannabis in the last episode, so be sure to check that out. And then last thing, be gentle with yourself when you fall off track. We are not perfect. I am a perfectionist, and that's something that I have been working on for the last few months. And I'm consistently having to work on it and check myself on it. So when you fall off, be gentle with yourself and just get back on track. This self-care journey that we're on is something that we're going to be practicing and doing our entire lives. For as long as you live, you will have to take care of yourself. You will have to give into yourself before you can give into others or give into your community or your family or your support system. So give into yourself. Be gentle with yourself. If anything, in anything, just be gentle with yourself. That concludes our episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it valuable. Head on over to the show notes at maryzeal.com/03 and you'll be able to see any of the links that we talked about in the episode or just kind of see a recap of what you saw here. And also, we have a Facebook group, y'all. Let's take this thing to Facebook and chat and build community. So join the Facebook group. It is called High on Self-Care. If you search that in Facebook, you'll find it. Otherwise, you can go to maryzeal.com/Facebook and that will redirect you to the Facebook group. So come and join that. I'm excited to chat with you and put a face to a download and let's build this community. So yeah, have a great morning. OMG, I can talk about that all day. Did you get anything good out of that episode? Want to keep the conversation going? Meet me in the High on Self-Care Facebook group to keep chatting. Head over to maryzeal.com/Facebook to join the community.